I changed this chart this morning from oil price uncertainty to oil price certainty. Within Holden, we are certain it's going to go up. Graham said in the next 5 or 6 years, double. Maybe in the next couple of years it might double. If I'm making personal decisions about what car I'm going to buy them on the basis of petrol price being double by 2011. That's my personal decision. When we consider alternative fuels, we're most comfortable working in the bottom right-hand corner, which is about the vehicle and the technology. Now, today, Holden works in all 3 corners of this triangle. So we're working with the issues around consumer take-up. Consumers don't want to be using an alternative fuel because they're comfortable with what they do. We've got a lot of feedback that consumers don't like LP gas, but we think LP gas is an important fuel in the future. Infrastructure. Holden is committed to E85 ethanol fuels. Graham and I have some disagreement around that as an alternative fuel. Holden is committed. Vehicles will be released in 18 months that run on those fuels. Today, you can hardly buy that fuel anywhere. Holden is working with partners to put that fuel in the marketplace when the cars are released. So we have to work right outside our normal business in the whole system to deliver that outcome. This is GM's perspective of the potential of an ethanol E85 fuel. On the right is a second generation technology that is not proven yet. There's a demonstration plant starting up, I think it's this month in the US, which Holden people will be visiting, and the claims are that there'll be a 70% reduction in CO2 using that fuel. Now, as I say, Graham and I have some differences on that. Liquid petroleum gas, in a year last year where petrol price was a record, only 16,000 customers of new cars bought an LP gas car. All of those went to fleets except for 500 private customers. The outlook, one forecast that I've seen from Orbital in Western Australia, is that by 2015, 80,000 people will buy new cars running on LP gas, and you'll be able to buy it in 18 months from Holden and Ford as well. Totally different from LP gas vehicles in the fleet today. This is a complex chart, which is going to get me into trouble with timing probably. This is compressed natural gas, and I worked on a catalytic project within Holden for the last 9 months, which has not gone anywhere, which I'm a little bit sad about. And as a result of that not going anywhere, one of the significant capabilities in Australia around vehicle development has been removed from the country. Bosch Australia have closed down their vehicle development facilities, and they were a collaboration partner on a project around CN gas. And this was their last chance to protect that capability. They've now closed that, and the nearest capability to Holden to do a similar thing is now based in Perth. In the middle of this chart is sales of CNG, or sales of a product sold by General Motors in Thailand, the top of the bars, and the little pink bit down the bottom is CNG version. You see that the red line rocketed up with the sales of the car, and the bright red bars are the CNG version. Now, up the top is petrol price, which changed in Thailand last year, the same as it did here in Australia. That was one of the triggers. So that was one of the conditions. Petrol price went through the roof. Thais could not afford petrol. A car that GM could not sell because it was old and outdated, sales went through the roof. CNG version of that car went from 10% to 80% call-up. But there are other things in the system. There's incentives from the government. Was this a good outcome? Not sure. I happen to know that CNG version there was a poor quality installation and is going to cost General Motors in the future warranty cost, and the emissions outcome from this product will be probably no better than petrol. But it looks good on that chart. So be careful what you incentivise. Electric cars are coming, but I don't think for a couple of decades yet in any serious volume. General Motors and other companies have realised that most people drive very short distances day to day. That's a condition to take into account. If you want to drive 200 kilometres with an electric car, you're going to need a $20,000 battery today. But if you just want to drive back and forward to work, then then it's a much easier proposition to satisfy. And 78% of customers only drive 40 miles or 64 kilometres a day, which means that a product like an electric vehicle, and this is a GM design, which also has a small engine to charge the battery if you drive further than that, could be viable. But when this is released in Australia, probably in 2012, this will probably cost more than a current Holden Calais, unless we find some breakthroughs with the technology. So it's not going to be very affordable to too many people. And most electric cars are in that position. And as Graham alluded to yesterday, depends where you get your electricity from. I mean, the worst thing that could happen for the environment in some parts of Australia today is that we have breakthroughs in technology with electric vehicles. Because if you buy an electric vehicle and run it on coal-fired electricity in Victoria today, you'll do much more damage to the environment than a petrol car. So, as Graham alluded to, there's got to be some changes in the electric industry before electric vehicles make sense from an environmental perspective. Tasmania, great. Tasmania, big advantage. So here's my little bit critical of the car industry, but be careful. It's not all the car industry's fault. The car industry in 100 years has delivered big improvements in performance, safety, comfort and reduction in noxious emissions. But if you look at the data, very modest improvements in fuel economy and CO2 because it's been left to the marketplace. And the car industry currently resisting mandatory fuel efficiency standards. I think the car industry is going to fail with that into the future in Australia. So what could we do? From my knowledge of the car industry, we should legislate for mandatory fuel efficiency standards, is my personal belief. We can put technology in cars to help people, drivers, know how to drive and how that impacts their CO2 emissions. We can increase the use of gaseous fuels, and products are already on their way to do that. We can invest in renewable ways of generating electricity to be ready for electric cars when they're affordable. And we can connect, in the future, cars and infrastructure to eliminate crashes, which has got safety advantages, and then you can take out all the mass in the vehicle to protect the humans because they'll never crash. And this is not a dream. There is technology being developed as we speak to do that. But some days you just want to go home early. And this cartoon has resonance. My last staff meeting before I left Holden, one of my innovation team said something very similar to this. Before you leave, Peter, can you give us the 5 steps to success? And I said, Ferry, you've already got it. Thank you.